All right, welcome back everybody to the deep dive. You know how this works. You send us some thought-provoking material, and we dive deep, right? So this time, what we've got is a daily global news script. Looks like it's from March 25th, 2025. Our mission today is to break it down, to really understand what these headlines mean. Not just the surface stuff, but what it all means for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's about going beyond just reading the news, right? Trying to find those like underlying currents. What are these events really pointing to?
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so let's start with Ukraine. There's a lot going on there, but the script really highlights Kherson, calling it Ukraine's most dangerous city. What makes it so dangerous right now?
Well, I think one thing that really stands out is just the geography of it. Kherson is within range of Russian artillery, drone. So basically, the people living there are just constantly under threat.
Yeah, and you can see that in the population numbers, right?
Yeah.
Like it's gone from almost 300,000 people down to something like 60,000. That's a huge drop. And I mean, we have to remember this is a city that was occupied by Russia for a while too.
That's right. That's right. And there were all those reports, between March and November 2022, about detentions, even torture happening under that occupation. So, I mean, yeah, you can see why people would be leaving and why the situation there remains really tense.
Definitely. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. The script also mentions that the U.S. has resumed deportation flights to Venezuela. What's behind that decision?
So it seems like this came about after an agreement between the U.S. and Venezuelan governments, although it's kind of complicated, right? Because there was that whole thing a while back where the Trump administration revoked an oil export license, even with the sanctions still in place.
Yes, like even with the sanctions, there's still this economic entanglement.
Exactly, exactly. So, I mean, this resumption of flights, it's definitely tied up in those diplomatic and economic factors, too.
For sure. Okay, turning our attention to Asia now. There's this U.S. intelligence report suggesting that China might be preparing for a possible invasion of Taiwan by 2027. 2027. I mean, that's not that far off.
It's a pretty tight timeline, and the report makes a point of connecting this to President Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign within the PLA, the People's Liberation Army. They're suggesting that Xi sees this, getting rid of corruption as like key to modernizing the military.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about having the latest equipment. It's about making sure the military itself is actually functioning effectively.
Right, right. Like getting rid of anything that could hinder their capabilities. And the report seems to be saying that she thinks that corruption is one of those things that could really slow them down, especially with this 2027 timeline in mind.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's move to the Middle East now. The script talks about a new proposal from Egypt aimed at restoring the ceasefire in Gaza. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. So basically, what Egypt is proposing is a phased release of Israeli hostages. They're suggesting 5 hostages released per week.
Hmm.
And the idea is that after that first week, Israel would then implement the second phase of that ceasefire agreement they had before.
Ah, so it's a kind of a step-by-step approach.
Yeah, yeah. And this comes after things escalated again recently with Israel resuming operations against Hamas. So it's clearly a very delicate situation, very volatile.
Definitely. Okay, last item from the script. A Russian missile strike on an industrial facility in Sumy, Ukraine.
Right. Unfortunately, this attack in Sumy, it ended up causing damage not just to the industrial site, but also to residential areas and a hospital. And Sumy, it's just about 30 kilometers from the Russian border, so it's really vulnerable to these kinds of strikes. They've been hit repeatedly.
Yeah, it's right on the front line. And from the script, it sounds like at least 28 people were injured in this latest attack.
Right, at least 28. So, yeah, a very dangerous situation there in Sumy.
All right, so just to recap what we've covered, the ongoing dangers in Kherson, the U.S. restarting deportations to Venezuela, that U.S. intelligence report about China and Taiwan, Egypt's proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza, and the Russian missile strike on Sumy. A lot to digest, for sure.
Definitely. And I think as you think about all these events happening around the world, what kinds of connections do you see? What bigger trends are emerging? And how might all of this, even though they seem like separate events, how might they shape the near future, both for you and for, the world as a whole? It's a lot to consider.
Lots to think about. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive. We'll see you next time.